It's February. Almost March, honestly, if I'm not going to lie. It's almost March, and guess who hasn't been sticking to their goals? Guess who has procrastinated? Guess who fell off one day and just decided never to go back? Guess who decided not to follow through with that goal because there were some minor issues along the way? And I'm just here to tell you that if any of this sounds like you, I'm not here to criticize you because I am almost all of them. I'm just here to remind you that we're all in this together and it's all part of the process. There is no right or wrong way. Like, we have such a high expectations of ourselves, which is completely fine. Like, that's the way. But we set such a high expectation and we expect ourselves to change just like that, like immediately, and it's not going to be so. So in this episode, I just want to talk about falling into old habits and not staying there, not thinking that because I have fallen I should stay there. So this is like getting back out of your old habits. Hi everyone, it's Princess. Welcome or welcome back to my podcast. I'm super excited that you're joining me for this episode. I did a little something with my hair and I hope it's giving, because honestly I've been checking myself like, is this looking good? And yeah, I think it's looking good. So back to it. We're talking about habits. If you are falling off from any of your habits or any of the new goal that you set for yourself for this year, it's completely okay. And just because you fell off doesn't mean that you should just stay there. You can always get back up because you have free will and because you choose to. So this is just going to be a chit chat session because definitely I feel like I have fallen off a lot. Like, I don't even think I'm sticking to anything that I said I will, except this podcast, by the way. And I just want to talk about the reasons why we fall back into old habits so easily and how we can stand back up and actually stick to the new me, the new you that you set for yourself. And the first that came to my head today when I was thinking about it is feeling like a phony. I feel like this so many times, especially with my new TikTok account that I'm trying to grow. Please go follow me, by the way. And I feel like this because I'm thinking to myself, who am I to be posting all these things? Do I think I'm a TikToker, or do I think I have something important to say? Or am I trying to be someone else? Or am I trying to pretend to be someone else or to be something else? When I'm trying to eat healthy, I think to myself also, do I think I'm someone else? Who are you copying? Like, who are you trying to be like? And it's just, you know what? I'm going to stop feeling like a phony. I decided to choose the things that I want to be doing. I decided to choose how I want to be showing up each day just because I want to. Not because of anyone else is doing it, or not because I have been doing something so many times and that's me and then I should stick to it forever. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? So if you're someone that always used to do this, always listen to this kind of music, always used to dress a certain type of way, and when you're trying to change that for the better for yourself, if you feel like you're pretending, it's normal because your brain isn't just used to it yet. But that's the true you, and it's not going to be easy, definitely. So don't feel like a phony, especially when you feel people are watching you and then you feel you're fake. But you know what? It all comes down to the mind, because our mind has a version of us already. Our mind has an idea of who we are. And then when we are trying to fight that, when we are trying to create a new version of ourselves, that old story our mind has is like, but this isn't you, this isn't you, this isn't you. And then you want to go back, you want to satisfy that voice in your head that is saying this isn't you. You just want to be comfortable with what that voice in your head is saying. And then you think to yourself, yeah, it's not me, so I'm just not going to do it. And the next one is that we don't have a strong why, because it's very common to say we want to go to the gym, we want to start eating healthy, we want to learn new skills. But why though? Why do we want to start doing these things? And if we don't have a strong why, when the going gets tough, when we face a little, even the slightest issue or the slightest inconvenience, we just let it go like, because there was no strong why. So know your why and also know what's at stake. First of all, know your why and then know what's at stake. And what's at stake is just you knowing, if I don't do this, then what? Think to yourself, if I don't do this, then what? If I don't put out podcasts weekly, if I don't push myself to do this weekly, I'll live a life full of regret. I know that for sure, because last year I didn't do this and I was regretting a little bit. No, I was regretting a lot. So I know that's what at stake. I don't want to live a life of regret. I didn't like how I was living my life, regretting not recording. Even the past few weeks I've been feeling why am I not recording? Like, I should be recording a podcast right now. So know what's at stake. Know your why. Why are you recording podcast? I know my why. For sure, I know my why. In goals that you're working on, why are you doing this? And then if you don't do this, what will happen? So that would make you stand strong, and that will make you keep going. And know your non-negotiables. This is something that I know I'm struggling with, and I know that a lot of us are struggling with. It says, know your non-negotiables. What are you going to be doing? What are you going to definitely stop doing? We need to know what is expected of us, and we need to know the things that we have to really stop doing. Aside from you setting new habits you want to achieve or new things that you want to do, you also have to think to yourself, what is the thing that I'm just simply not going to be doing? Like, simply, like, this is not the new me. This is not following me into the new year. This is not following me into my new era. This is not going to help me in my new era. Just think to yourself, what are the things that I know for sure I'm not going to do it anymore? And don't rely on motivation, honestly, because motivation comes and goes. Like, this is not even a motivation channel, because I don't want there to be like a really, really big high and then the next thing you're just feeling low. So instead, stick to the plan. When you feel motivated, yeah, that's fine. You can use that moment to make decisions, especially at the beginning of the year. You were highly motivated and you set so many high goals. You can choose to reduce those goals. You can choose to tone those goals down just to make it comfortable for you. I'm not saying you should not dream big. Definitely you should dream big. But just stick to the plan. Know that you're not waiting for motivation, or you're not waiting for yourself to feel like doing it. You're deciding to stick to the plan. And this is something that I have to tell myself. I constantly remind myself, because it's not every time I feel like recording podcasts. It's not every time I feel like editing podcasts. And honestly, I won't lie, I've been slacking in that aspect because I just didn't feel like it. I would confess I have been relying on motivation, but I'm just choosing to stop, like, immediately. I'm stopping right now, immediately. And the next one is to have structure. If you only set goals with no plan or structure on how to actually follow through and stick to it, you're going to fall off because you've already set yourself up for disaster. So have a structure. If you want to accomplish this by this time, what are the things that would lead up to that? For example, if you want to do something weekly, if you want to be showing up at the gym weekly, what are the things that would ensure that you show up there weekly? I want to be posting podcasts weekly. That means I have to, which day am I recording this podcast? Is that day suitable? Everything. So this goal has to be integrated into your new life. You can't just write it there and that's the goal. And I like to think of it like slowly out with the old and in with the new. So if you're someone that watches movies a lot, like I've been watching a lot of movies of recent. So if you're someone that does that, you don't have to like stop all movies immediately. You can say, you know what, I'm going to be more mindful and more intentional about how I'm watching these movies, just so I could create time for other things. So you're slowly getting rid of how much you watch movies, and now you're replacing that time with things that you want to be doing. And the next one, which I would also have to confess to, is that you not being perfect doesn't mean that you have failed. And I just realized this like 2 days ago. But I always knew this, but I realized that I was doing this like 2 days ago because I set a goal for myself to be reading like 30 minutes daily at least. And tell me why I follow this religiously Monday to Friday. But then Saturday, I was just being on my Saturday grind and then I forgot. And then guess what? Sunday, I didn't do it. The following week, I didn't get back to it. So because I didn't do like that perfect 1 week streak, I just gave up. Which is wrong. Like, that's so wrong. Because it reminds me of that TikTok trend where they're filling a cup of water and then a little spilled and they're like, oh, since this has spilled, I'm just going to spill the whole cup. But that's not it. If little has spilled, leave that little, but keep going with the main objective. So if you fell off 1 day or fell off 2 days, you can easily pick yourself back up. And there's no problem with that. And the next thing that I would say is very important is to make sure that your environment is set up for your success. If you want to be going to the gym, make sure that you have a gym membership first of all. Because this is so embarrassing. But honestly, I want to go to the gym this year. But look at me, I don't even have a gym membership. So it's just ironic. It's just so crazy. It's little things like that. Also expose yourself. Let everybody know that this is what you're working on so that you can feel some sort of shame. Yes, you can feel shame when you're just not doing it. And I think that's really important. have some sort of accountability, because I know, you know what, lucky when if I don't post in a week, I know, like, I just have that invisible eyes somewhere judging me. So that alone holds me accountable. And if you can, keep a habits tracker, because honestly, I've tried so hard to keep a habits tracker, but it just seems so impossible for me. But if you can keep a habits tracker, keep a habit tracker. Tick the days where you have done this, and the days where you don't do it, you can see where you messed up, and you know that tomorrow you're definitely going to go back into doing it. The last thing I just want to share is that don't overdo it. Like, you're just in the beginning stages. Don't expect to go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. You can improve gradually. You don't have to improve in 1 minute. So you expecting yourself to improve in 1 minute is just unrealistic, and that's going to set you up for failure. So make sure that you just go gradually, and you're being compassionate with yourself. You're taking care of yourself. You're treating yourself like someone you would love. Because if someone was under your care, you would just be saying harsh things to them all the time. You wouldn't. So why do we do it to ourselves? So even if you're falling off a little bit, it's never too late to get back up, because we're still in February. We still have 10 amazing more months to go. So if you can just keep up with those 10 months, imagine how beautiful your life will be. Imagine how proud you'll be. And you're going to find a newly gained strength for you to even go further and do better things in future. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It was just a late night search because it's really late out. Guess why? I procrastinated recording this podcast. So if you enjoyed this podcast, leave like muscle emojis in the comment section, and I'll see you in my next week's episode.